We'll be right back. Okay, so could stand right here. Welcome to our show, to my show. I was born in Hagerstown in 1980. I attended Smithsburg area schools and then Frostburg State University. I earned a BFA in art and design in 2002 and a master's degree in educational leadership in 2020. I've been an educator with Washington County Public Schools for 20 years. I am also a professional photographer, having worked for Hagerstown Magazine, producing the Out and About segment, and more recently earned my certification as a real estate photographer. I've worked as a videographer and theater performer for the Authentic Community Theater since 2010. My photographic work has been licensed by the Washington County Visitors Center and is currently on display in the Faces of Hagerstown exhibit on the Cultural Trail. So let's get started. So this is my first piece called Light from Dreams. Was taken from a real dark exposure in a closet in my school, actually, using a fiber optic lamp, and the camera was just pointed down at it with a 5-second exposure time, and just layered the colors up there, and I really like the way it looks. Next, we have these pieces from my mother, Elora Maginnis. She was born in 1953 and passed away in 2018. There's Still Life, Stars, Owl, and Love in Seasons. This was kind of a restoration project for me because my father gave me these pieces that he'd been storing for a long time and not storing well, so they were damaged quite a bit, and so I was able to sort of take digital photos of them and clean them up, and just wanted to keep Mom's, my mother, Sandra, had a lifelong interest in the creative arts, from chalk to pastel, oil paint, calligraphy, to novel interior design. Her abiding love of art was an inspiration to me and to her granddaughter, Elora. Next, I have this piece, Black Rock 2012. This Black Rock is a overlook on the property of Thorpewood, a event and conference center in the Catoctin Mountains. So I got that there. This piece is called Children's Mandala. Was done with sand art board. It's just basically a big sticker sheet, and you use an X-Acto blade to remove selected portions of the sticker surface at once, and then sprinkle sand. This next one, I called it the Tuscarora Valley. Took it in 2019. It is taken east of Mercersburg, and it's looking southeast. Next, a set of 3 models I put together. This first one I did in 2018. I just call it Tribe 1, the aquatic loft, because I use a lot of hot glue for it, and I really shouldn't have. You can get a little closer there, but stand up straight. There you go. This next one is the apartment. I just used almost all white glue for that, and it turned out a lot better, and that was 2019. And then last year I did my third piece here, the tea room. And yeah, I added on some of my own moss there that I bought separately, just to give it a little bit of, and you can look down a little bit closer to that. Yeah, perfect. Okay, next, over here you have the Clawfoot Trio. Look down there closer too if you want. So I made these at work using a what's called a color burst glaze, and I just love clawfoots, so I added those on there, and later got the matching spouts. Next, I call these Art Deco panes. I had plexiglass cut to the size of some window panels in our crawl outs in our basement. And I've always loved stained glass paints ever since I discovered them maybe 10 years ago. And so, yeah, that was just taken from an Art Deco design. Next, I call this one Recline with Sounds. This was 2014. I just saw somewhere where somebody had taken cassette tapes and used zip ties to connect them together, and in this case it made the backing and the seat for the chair. Next, I call this piece Second Act. Finished it in 2021. This used to be a bubble tube. Used to be filled with water and bubbles would come up through it, but it took damage over time, being in my classroom and transporting it from here to there. So I eventually gave it a second act and painted it with the stained glass paints and put a light strip inside it. Next is my grandfather's arms. Did this in 2018. My grandfather, Joseph Wakely, served in World War II, and when he passed away in 2019 at the age of 92, he left behind these long guns. The middle weapon was a Nazi rifle seized by the Allies fighting in the Western Front. The rifles are damaged and unable to be fired, so they found a new purpose. Weapons of war, too, can be seen in and help cast a new light. Next, this piece, and you can get in close for a little closer look there. This is called War Never Changes. It is 3D printed from about 55 pieces. I did that last summer. It was so rewarding, especially painting it with the rusted finish that it's got there, and I was able to put some fairy lights in behind this flashlight lens there. And sort of going with my Fallout theme corner, this is the Lumberjack Protectron, and these pieces in this corner are an homage to the Fallout series produced by Interplay Productions, Bethesda Softworks, and Obsidian Entertainment starting in 1997. The stories are set in a post-apocalyptic America, decades after nuclear war has crumbled society and left those who remain struggling to survive. And when this robot was left outside when the bombs fell, decades later, when we find him again, he's still rolling around the woods collecting wood. And so he's the Lumberjack Protectron. Next, this piece. Currency, if you will. Again, inspired by the Fallout series, but because the United States government fell, as well as all the other governments in the world, thanks to some automated soda bottling plants that were still operational, like bottles of soda were still produced. So the people who survived the nuclear apocalypse began to use bottle caps as the currency. And the bottle caps come from a couple different sources. This piece is called Awaken. It's from 2013. My father had bought a domain called wordsandpics.com. It's since defunct, but his idea was to pair his writing with macro photography. So this is just basically a little yellow, tiny little common yellow flower you'll see in a yard, and I took a photo of it. This next piece is sort of the return to Black Rock, 10 years after I first discovered that overlook on the property of Thorpewood. I came back around Halloween of 2022 and took a new photo. Next, I call this one Wonderful Wand, and really this piece had one of my favorite collaborators involved with it, and my daughter used a color wand that emanates different colored lights and just basically swung it around. And I combined together about 6 different exposures there to get this piece. Next, this is Dewey Beach. Took that in 2018 by illegally flying a drone very high in the sky and then just pointing the camera directly downward. We got that sort of a beautiful view of the waves crashing on the Dewey Beach shore. And if you look very closely, you can see me in silhouette, or the shadow that the sun is casting through me onto the ground. Next, this piece is called Embellishment, 2018. I got this scrap box of paper remnants, and I had cut them, one edge of them into a point, and then just basically overlapped them and stapled hundreds of them together, and just came up with this beautiful sort of dragon scale texture that I really like. Next, this piece is called The Inner Light. This is also from the era where I was taking macro photography from my father's website. Just a really close-up photo of a fairly common flower. I couldn't tell you which one it was, but yeah. And next, for this one, you might want to stand a little bit further back. This one is called A Difference It Makes, 2022. Made these a couple months ago. The process for these was pretty easy, actually. I just took these stretchers and stretched some linen that my mother had across them to make stretch canvases, and then you spray paint a base color on. In this case, it was a ombre from just through all the colors of the rainbow. And then once that spray paint's dry, you drizzle it with Dawn dish soap, and then use a second color to spray a second coat over top, and then use a garden hose to rinse the Dawn dish soap off. So this one was sort of like rings, and then this one we got faster, and then here it was like frantically spun, so it's mostly just droplets now. Next, call this piece Resplendent Depths. This was taken at the Luray Caverns. First time we'd ever been there, and it was really quite amazing, all the features inside the cavern. So, next, 2019, The Inner Life of Us. Over a period of about 6 months, I individually asked all the staff and students of Antietam Academy to come into my classroom and pose for a silhouette portrait in front of a large window. Using a simple overlay technique, you can go in a little bit closer to look. I combined the silhouettes with the best photos I'd taken over the years, then compiled the results together for this piece. It was my attempt to draw the people of Antietam Academy together and further to comment on the rich inner beauty inherent in all of us. Next one, this is called Lavender White. Again, from the macro photography era, but this time I made it an HDR image by combining overexposed and underexposed frames to give it the surreal kind of painterly look. And this one, I really love the colors, but this is glass gem corn. We started growing it in our home garden. And yeah, we just love the color of the corn kernels. Next one, Refraction, 2021. I started experimenting with putting a colored background and then a piece of glass in front of it, spritzed with water to see the water refraction that would take place there. Next, Fall Color, 2016. I've always been really fascinated by fall colors. And so that's just that photo. I just love how you can still see the green in there, but then in the veins, you can see it's really starting to red up and even turn brown. And this one, Autumn in the Valley, took that in early fall 2022. And this is in the Catoctin Mountain Valley as the sun was setting. And then lastly, let's come over here and look at our, I call this the dream cloud. Finish this last. In my time in the classroom, so I became very interested in my time in the classroom, I became very interested in crafting an environment that would help students regulate their emotions, a task that needs constant attending. I found that making cloud lamps fit this need quite nicely. It's using paper lanterns and wire as an armature, and then it's got two light reactive light strips inside of it, and then it's covered with polyester fill fiber. And this is the largest of the cloud lamps I've ever made. So thank you for coming to my show, and appreciate you taking the time.